today we have Saida with us. Um, she will introduce herself and her work through a presentation. After that, we will have a small talk and a couple of questions. But this is just an introduction, so everyone can feel more than welcome to contact her and have more information in the website. Also, after this interview, she will be taking over the Instagram account of GlogauAIR. That means that she will have the chance to show a little bit more of her work through Instagram. So reach her and just comment, and everything is a lot of help in this process. Also, thank you so much for joining us this Saturday. This will be uploaded after in YouTube and Instagram. That is thanks to our communication team that makes everything possible. Also, I want to thank the curatorial team too, that is part of the process that we follow the progress of the online residents and also the on-site residents who are in Berlin right now. And also this residency is coming to an end because in a couple of weeks we have our open studios in Berlin. So if you are there, please join us. We will be more than happy to welcome all of you. Finally, we are able to open the doors wide open. So just come and say hi. Well, my name is Laura. I didn't introduce myself. My name is Laura Olea. I am part of the curatorial team. That's it. I think I would like to leave the floor to you, Saida. If you have anything else to add, and we will have a talk before after that. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura, for the nice introduction. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in today. I'm really excited to be part of this program, part of this residency, and excited to do this interview with Laura today. Thank you, Laura, for organizing and hosting this as well. I would like to, first of all, share my screen so I can tell you more about myself and my process, the work that I've been doing during this residency, and the project I'm preparing for the virtual open studios and open studios at GlogauAIR as well. Can you see my presentation? Yes, okay, great. Okay, so my name is Saida Alkhulaifi. I am a visual artist and a curator / museum professional from Qatar. I obtained my master's degree in museum and gallery practice from UCL Qatar, and I'm currently working in the contemporary arts field in Doha. When it comes to my art, I like to refer to myself as a self-taught artist. Apart from taking courses here and there, I'm still learning and I'm still trying to develop my process further day by day. My main medium, I would say, is photography, and especially analog photography. I'm trying to understand the world around me through looking at concepts of time, society norms, and object symbolism. The mediums that I'm mostly interested in working with is photography, as I said, experimental printing and developing, illustration, text, and also embroidery. I'll talk a little bit more about how my concept developed, which is the concept I'm currently focusing on, as well as it is the concept I'm focusing on for my project for GlogauAIR. So this concept I've been working on for almost a year now, a little bit more than a year. It started by me documenting my daily life and my places, my surroundings and places that I go to. Mainly looking at the main purpose of a photograph, which is like stopping a moment in time and recording that specific moment. I mean, we live in a world that is everly changing at large, but specifically here in my country, it is changing day by day. One place that exists today could possibly be removed tomorrow to be replaced by a new project. It is mainly part of the urbanism that our country is going through, preparing for the World Cup in 2022, and as well as trying to contain all the people that are currently living in Qatar. So small roads are placed with bridges, smaller buildings are replaced with bigger buildings. And then with all this documentation, I started, it kind of became more personal to me. I started looking at time and specific and how I personally look at time and try and answer questions about how linear time is, and the idea of tomorrow then developed. Me personally, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate, we always wait for tomorrow, trying to hoping for better things to come tomorrow, hoping for dreams to become reality tomorrow. And then I started looking at the current moment and asking myself, what is this current moment is actually the future, and what if this current moment is also tomorrow? So I look a lot at recent memory. With time, I noticed that my photography style has a little bit of nostalgic feeling, and it's becoming more and more interesting to me, and I'm trying to stick with that. And I try to also, and then I asked myself, how can I add to these photos? What can I add to these photos? How can I interpret more of my personal emotions into these photos? My inspiration, as I said, comes a lot from my daily life, my daily surroundings. It could be places that I go to, and simply it could be the backyard of my house and the plants and fruits that we grow here in my house. I still look at their references, their symbolism, and also their reference in terms with time as well. A lot of my inspiration also comes from the close people in my life, my family, especially my grandmother, my closest friends. As I said, my personal journal plays a huge part in my work, and I try to incorporate a lot of those feelings and emotions into my work as well. I'm also interested in poetry, especially classic Arabic poetry that has references of time, and I see how poets ask questions about time and also hoped for to be reunited with their lover, for example, in the future, or in the hopes of getting their country back, for example, in the future, in case of some of the revolutionary poets. A lot of my inspiration also comes from nature. It plays a huge part in my work. And also material. I'm very interested in material. It inspires me a lot, and it helps me also push forward my practice. So after inspiration, I'd like to talk a little bit about my process. I like to refer to my process as experimental, I would say. I never wanted to be called a photographer per se, or just a visual artist. I wanted to combine both in my process, and then I found myself very much interested in layering, and layering can start even before taking a photograph, thinking of ways how to influence that specific photo, or during working on the photograph after it's taken, or maybe after I have the photo between my hands. I found myself very much interested in analog photography and alternative photography methods. It interests me more than digital imaging because I've never been much interested in composition or, let's say, lighting per se. Of course, I would like to take a nice image, but this is not like um, my main goal to achieve while taking a photograph. I think it's more interesting to see how this photo will develop, what kind of elements will affect that, whether during developing the photo, whether it's light leaks, whether it's the chemicals itself. Sometimes it's something as simple as my fingerprints during developing. And also, I like the idea of an analog photograph being unexpected. Like I would take a photo and would like it to be a certain way, but then it might appear completely a different way. Right now, I'm focusing a lot on black and white photography, but I would like to expand to color. But I'm still right now, I feel that black and white serves my concepts more. Text, as I said, is a lot of it is my personal journal. I try to observe my feelings in the moment during taking a photograph. I note a lot of these things down, and collage plays an important role. As I said, I'm very much interested in layering in terms of material, in terms of the process itself. I worked in the previous years in fashion design. So textile and embroidery is something that I carried with me during my visual arts practice as well. My drawing also comes from my inspiration from nature. So a lot of my drawings in my work is inspired by places that I go to and plants that I encounter in nature. These are a few photos to give you an idea of my process. In the image on the right, I layered a palm tree image with text in ink. The text reads Bukra in Arabic, which means tomorrow in English. The next photo, the photo in the middle, is basically me trying out different techniques of printing. And the third one is a reference of film developing process that I do enjoy most of the time. These are some of the artists that inspire me. I don't look at only photographers per se. I look at different artists that work with different materials, that enjoy working with textures, lines, recycled materials. But I also like to take a reference from photographers that like to push the photograph from being two-dimensional to multi-dimensional. For example, Letha Wilson is an artist who is a photographer who takes photos of different landscapes and then tries to make sculptures out of these photos. And Eduardo Chillida is a sculptor. He's very well known for his sculptures, but I like his lithoprints and his collage work. A huge inspiration comes from Gerard Richter, who, especially his earlier work, well, he takes personal photos and personal documentations and layers that with paint, trying to highlight some of parts of these photos and cover other parts as well. Khalid Al-Thani is a local photographer. I can relate to him a lot with his landscape photograph and black and white photography, and especially like the composition and how he incorporates and highlights certain parts of the image as well. Next, we'll have a look at some of my work. This work I've done between 2020 and 2021. For example, this photo is a 35mm photograph, and you can see it is quite evident, and I tried not to retouch these parts where there is a chemical on the right, some fingerprints on the top, and then I layered that with thread. And this is of a local plant. The inspiration of this is a local plant called Ausaj, which is a very dry plant that appears a lot in the Arabian desert. This is a scanography. I enjoy scanning a lot. I worked with this part of a poem by an Iraqi poet named Badr Shakir Sayyab, where he's describing the eyes of his lover as a palm tree forest at the time of dawn. So this really stopped me because the time of dawn, I think, helps the reader of this poem visualize how these eyes look like, and I would assume that they have very thick black lashes. So I think referring to the time of dawn heavily affected the imagery of this of what he's trying to describe. I've done this embroidery on an embroidery ring, added some paint, and then scanned it, and this is the result that I got. This photo is less intuitive, I would say. A lot of my photos are like me grabbing my camera on the go, going to places, and I would visualize what I would want to achieve, but this photo shoot was quite planned. Everything is from materials that we used to the outfit to including this donut specifically with the happy face was planned. But I wanted to show you like my process of layering, of which I've added plastic on top of the image, and also I've added ink to reference how the hands is protecting the donut in a way, and I think it served the concept of this photo shoot pretty well. This is some of other work that I did. These are images that I haven't added any layers in terms of after printing the image, but layering came whether during taking the photo of trying to achieve a double exposure of the photo on the right, and the photo on the left has a lot of some light leak and chemicals that appeared on top of it. And these are some mistakes that used to demotivate me at the beginning, but then I started like embracing them and look at them as an interesting part of the process, and like give my work like a specific direction that I would want to continue to work with. For GlogauAIR, I'm also still working with the concept of time. I'm highlighting palm trees for this for open studios, and I'm doing like mainly a photo collage, and doing a lot of prints on paper, photo paper, and on textile as well. I'll be adding thread in terms of embroidery and stitching, and also some ink for the writing and also for the embroidery. There will be different layers for this work, including plastic, threads, as I said, and ink. The text will be, there will be a lot of personal text, personal questions, and notes from my journal, as well as I've shown you before, some added text from Arabic, classic Arabic poets. Yeah, that's about it. And if you have any questions, you can drop me an email or DM me on Instagram. And please have a look at my website. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Saida. I think it has been a really interesting presentation, and I enjoy so much the personal details about your work that even us from the curatorial team, I'm not sure we knew. So I think that is a really interesting approach of how you start to get interested in these images. For example, with the relationship with the gentrification on Qatar. I have to say that I appreciate so much the detail and the information that you are sharing with us about also the process of building that image as something real connected with materials and chemicals, and a process that is also touching with embroidery. I think it's a really complex process. Um, I had some notes, but I think you solved some of them really well. For example, um, this this wide use of techniques and also kind of freedom, no, to invite other other techniques to building that this image makes you, as you were saying, not just a photographer or a visual artist. It's like some kind of experimental process that you don't know where it's gonna end. So it's layering different images, textures. Um, is it feels, but I'm not sure. I don't know what if you could share a little bit about it. But um, what about the decisions that you take? For example, if it's based on visual composition, if it's around giving some kind of sensory feeling, or how you relate or how you take these decisions in every step.
Um, yeah, at the beginning when I used to take photos, I always take a look at these photos and I want to push them from not just being two-dimensional. I wanted them to be multi-dimensional. But and as I said at the beginning, I wanted these photos to be perfect in terms of composition and lighting. But I mean, with time, I've always asked myself, what can I add more to these photos to express more of my feelings in the moment? Of course, them being visually, I would say, appealing, or at least to me, is very important. And the idea of where to place a certain text or where to place a certain material is um, is not as intuitive as during the process of taking the image. But as I said, I enjoy the process being experimental, and sometimes it takes me, as you said, to different directions, as I have originally planned. Um, for example, I would start working with some embroidery and a certain image, and then with time, I decide that that doesn't suit the idea, or that doesn't push the idea further. So I would turn that into a scan, or for example, adding a different material, or let's say adding ink, for example. So it's really depends on the image itself, but I like to have a connection between all of these, and I think this connection that I'm having right now is that each piece is quite personal to me, per se.
Yeah, in fact, your images feel so. So if I will have to choose one word for describing your work, I will say that they have a lot of silence, like it's calm, but also seems like they are hiding a story, or somehow is a freeze moment in some kind of narration, or even, of course, they have a lot of reference with cinematographic dimensions in terms of this black and white that you use, and sometimes with the double exposure. They create this kind of deepness and somehow movement, and you can see these scenarios that they are really evocative. So how do you think that they can have some kind of a story, or how is your take on people imagine these possible stories, or even for example, in not just some of them have a person or have someone, so it's more like a next scenario that happened something and then everyone left. I think that is really interesting as an audience. I don't know if you had some experience or people imagine stuff on that.
Yeah, one of the main reasons that I'm sticking for now with black and white is I would want people to stop for a moment and think when this image was taken, or where this image was taken, or um, why specifically this time of the day.
Yeah.
So I think with black and white, and especially with analog, I think it gives this timeless atmosphere, I would say. So it really interests me what people would think when they see these images, and I don't want to like answer questions for myself or for people. I want things to be open for interpretation. For example, I'm asking the question of what is tomorrow, but I'm not necessarily looking for an answer right now. It's just me asking questions that pop in my head and like that I wonder about, but not necessarily trying to find answers, but to like help me interpret these thoughts and these questions in my mind. Um, of them being empty of people, it's mainly how like I approach landscape in the moment, and sometimes still life. I Most of the people who would appear in my images are people that I know. Um, um, I still don't have any like random person from the street appear in my photos. It's mainly people that I have a connection with, and again, that is also comes back to like all of these projects are quite personal to me.
Yeah, yeah, you can feel it for sure. I would like to bring one last question, and I think it's a good chance to also talk a little bit about your practice as a curator, and how these two parts of your practice um, work together or not, or if you could tell us a little bit how, if you find some points of connection, or you feel like they are really separate practices or disciplines for you.
Um, at the beginning, I used to treat each one separately. Like in my professional life, I wouldn't talk about my artistic process. Um, and I try to disconnect from my professional life when working on my photos. But honestly speaking, they overlap and
Mhm,
they interact with one another a lot. I mean, in my like professional career, I work a lot with artists.
mhm,
I look at their process from beginning to end. I look at how their artworks develop. Also, in curating exhibitions, there is a lot of aspects that I look at from a professional point of view, is how to extract themes from different artist works, or let's say where to place a certain work in an exhibition and
mhm.
setting, or let's say how to present it in case the artist doesn't know how to, or they're not sure of what is the best way to present their work. And but then I noticed that me being part of this process from the other side also helped me in my process of thinking, and helped me to push myself more into trying and develop my work more, not to settle to just taking an image, but no, actually pushing it further and further. And so they both feed into one another, in short.
Yeah, yeah, that's for sure. And um, I think, well, in this presentation, is very clear that is something that you make grow one to each other somehow, that evolves on you as a professional, but also as an artistic practice. So um, thank you so much for all the presentation. Thank you so much for sharing all these details in your work. We are really happy to have the chance to not just having you in our virtual open studios in a couple of weeks, but also having something physical in Berlin too. And it's going to be really great. These 3 months has been really interesting to follow your process and these different experiments that you have been working, that maybe we can just say a sneak peek, like working in directly printing on materials as fabric. That is really interesting to see how everything is gonna follow on the next months. So thank you so much for being with us in GlogauAIR and also in this presentation. It has been a real pleasure for me.
Thank you, Laura, and thank you everyone for tuning in. And thank you for having me in GlogauAIR's program.
Yes, of course. So thank you everyone for joining us today. We will share more of the video and the information soon. And please reach Saida's takeover tomorrow, starting today until tomorrow. Thank you and have a nice day.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.